So you want to make a webtoon. You've been preparing for this moment for a while, brainstorming ideas, researching formatting, learning how to create SFX yourself, watching tutorials on story beats, all to prepare yourself and make your comic the best it can be. But should you make a webtoon? If you haven't done all the things I've mentioned so far, then aren't you rushing into things a little too quickly? Have you actually thought about how hard this will be to make a comic yourself? Or did you just want to make a comic for the sake of making a comic? Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Puddles, and in this video I will share with you some things to consider before posting your comic publicly. So let's get into it. I'm going to start things off with a food analogy, so bear with me. Borrowing the quote from Ratatouille, anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great. And that's somewhat true. Anyone can make a simple dish, but to cook something like a beef Wellington, for example, you need a bit more knowledge than just the basics, because everyone can make a sandwich. Does not have to be fancy, just 2 slices of bread and something to go into the middle. Quick and easy. This is the formula for most creative projects. You have the bread, beginning of the story, the middle of the story, aka rising action, climax, and falling action as the filling, and capping it off with a final bread slice, the end of your story. But the thing about sandwiches is that they're all kind of the same. They all follow the same formula, which is bread filling bread. But in order to make something like a beef Wellington, something that's a bit more intricate, complex, and takes a lot longer to churn out than a sandwich, then you need a bit more knowledge about cooking. The one thing that these two do have in common though is effort. Just thought I'd put that out there. So the question I'm trying to ask here is, what would you feel more accomplished by making? A sandwich or a beef Wellington? Kinda hungry now. Okay, food analogy over. This isn't a cooking channel, as entertaining as that would be, so let's move on to the next thing you should consider before making your webtoon. This is basically, what are your long-term goals with this? Is it to make money, earn a following, or just create something new and exciting? If your only goal is to make money, whoo boy, this isn't the way to do it. Unless you plan to make a predatory content farm with the sole purpose of churning out morally wrong comics with no soul just for $1, I strongly suggest you reconsider. Webtoon already has enough trash as is without money-hungry degenerates adding to the pile. So is your comic just a cash grab relying on trends instead of a story to get by? Or is it something heartfelt and has a soul? That might be a little mean. Making comics is not a walk in the park. Your idea may be simple and not require anything more than an outline, but I'm talking about taking that idea and turning it into a comic. That is no walk in the park. Because let's face it, some ideas are not suited to becoming a full-fledged comic. If you know, you know. Real talk? Some of you probably looked at a webtoon you have been reading and had the thought, I could do that. So let's take a moment to go over the work that goes into a webtoon, or any comic really. I did briefly go over this in my how to make a webtoon video, but let's dive into how much work goes into it, starting with the writing. You have to plan the episode, the script, the tone. This usually takes me about 1 to 2 days at most, but if I struggle with the direction I want to go into, it might take longer. I already work 13 plus hours a day for 2 weeks straight on my comic. Already, this mainly goes into planning, drafting, writing, research, SFX, drawing, coloring, and extra additions I might need. So my workday days consist of me waking up at 8:30 a.m. and usually stop at 10 to 11 p.m., depending on if I'm still out in the zone after several coffees. With my schedule as unhealthy as it is, I still struggle to meet my 2-week deadline I set for myself. Even with so many hours invested in working at my desk, I can't account for days where I'm not able to work on my comic, because I do have outside obligations, surprisingly. Compared to most manga creators, my schedule is way more relaxed than theirs. Like, I can't even believe how they can churn out such high quality art in only a week. That is freaking amazing. For instance, as of writing this script, December 20th, 2024, I finished my episode the day it was scheduled to be posted 20 minutes before it went live. Meaning I woke up really early at 6:30 and didn't stop working till 1:40. No breaks, just coffee and stress. So either I really suck at time management, that's probably true, but it is a testimony to how you need to push yourself to meet your deadlines. Sure, it is a deadline I set for myself. No one outside of me is forcing me to upload on these specific days, but if I just allow myself to push the deadline further and further, then nothing would ever be uploaded. Deadlines are important not to just keep you motivated, but to let your audience have something to look forward to, so they know when and where you are posting, and half the time they are probably looking at their phones refreshing their feed every 2 seconds the day you are supposed to upload. So, can you put yourself under this much stress and anxiety and hold yourself accountable? Good question to ask yourself. I haven't even mentioned the physical toll it can take on you. Like for instance, during COVID when I went to school for animation, I spent 2 years in front of my computer working on weekly animation deadlines, and that absolutely destroyed my eyesight. I had 20/20 vision all my life, and now I need glasses. This plays into me making my comic too, because I don't think this has helped my eye situation either. The whole reason why I incorporated an hour break into my schedule isn't for food, it's to close my eyes and stop them from sizzling. Recently, I've been using a brace for my wrist after drawing for so long. It's just a bit of pain and numbness at the moment, but it's still weird to think that I can't even write normally with a pencil without taking a break every 10 minutes to cradle my arm. Oh boy. And just the other day, I had a wicked migraine that made me lose vision in one of my eyes. It was so scary. So take breaks, people. It's not worth the stress of thinking you're going blind in one eye and then having a mini crisis when it's just a migraine. I just needed to sleep and become a vampire for a day. It's alright. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there are practical things you need to think about, and really process before diving headfirst into a comic creation. I guess you could say most of what goes into comic creation is sacrifice. Ooh, sacrifice. 2024 went by surprisingly fast, and all I did for most of it was work on my comic. Wild how tunnel vision can be. I'm getting ahead of myself. You might not have the luxury of working on your comic full time like me, so before you get anywhere, you would have to take time out of your own schedule to make it, and sometimes things aren't always finished quickly. And sometimes things that aren't finished quickly fizzle out of motivation like a hot desert. I should know. I've been working on this thing for quite a while now, and the motivation is slowly failing me. When it comes to the art side of things, many comics are collaborations between a writer and an artist, but for most canvas comics, you're likely working solo. That means your workload is more than just jotting down ideas in a Word document. Sure, you can hire others to help, whether they're friends or more professional artists, but here's the catch: can you afford that? I don't think so. Unless you have an endless budget to hire a team, you're probably the one responsible for drawing your characters. So it's crucial to know more than just the basics when it comes to anatomy, perspective, and color theory. There are shortcuts like 3D assets, but unless you've got money to spend on them, those might not always be available, and it's always good to know the structure behind these things so you can just rely on yourself and not need any other outside help. You need a fallback plan. If a 3D asset is too expensive, then you just need to know how to do it yourself. Now, a lot of comics fail because the creator themselves didn't go out of their way to promote it. You will have to market your comic yourself and probably post to multiple sites and promote on all your socials in order to direct the audience to your comic. I've started promoting my comic, Alice the Vampire Slayer, here on my YouTube channel, just so the word is out there. But originally, I never promoted it because I didn't think it was worth the spotlight. And now I've slowly been integrating it into another platform like Tapas, for example. But the thing is, you have to micromanage things in a way on top of writing, drawing. You need to manage the promotion of your comic too, which also eats into your schedule. You will need to promote your comic, or else you will not gain any traction to begin with. So just remember that you will have to put yourself out there and face the possible rejection that comes with it. That's the other thing, rejection. It's okay if not a lot of people like your comic, you just haven't appealed to the right audience, and there will be people that love your work even if you personally hate it. That's the weird thing about opinions. Everyone has a different one. So just cater to people that enjoy your content instead of chasing ones that couldn't care less. It's exhausting if you're trying to convince people that aren't interested to look at your comic. You will just set yourself up for rejection. Sometimes it does take a while to appeal to the correct audience, but that's where promotion comes in. If you have all of these things, then the audience will come to you. Just a small tidbit about Patreon. If you do decide to create a Patreon for your comic or any of your works, that's another thing that you need to micromanage, because you now, on top of all this workload like writing, scripting, drawing, promoting, etc., you now have to make content for a Patreon where your audience might not even go to get more content from you. It's just a lot of stuff to be on top of all at once. That's mainly the reason why I have opted out of Patreon, although I am suffering for it, but I know myself and I cannot keep up with a Patreon that involves more work than what I'm already putting out, because even my YouTube channel is suffering because I only focus on my comic. So that's just another thing to consider if you do actually want to gain like monetary value from your comic. Patreon would be the way to do it, or Ko-Fi, but that's just more work on top of everything. So it's not all guts and glory, glitz and glam. It does take actual determination. You will struggle, you will fall out of love with your project, and you will burn out. That's just the reality. But if you can push through that, create a plan, build a schedule that works for you, and get a few buffer episodes under your belt, you'll be better prepared than I was and still am. I also recommend peer review. Get a friend to read through your comic before you post it to find any mistakes. It's always a good idea to have. Those are all things that you should probably consider before posting your comic/webtoon publicly. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you never miss when I upload. And feel free to leave a comment down below. I actually really do enjoy reading your guys' comments. It brightens my day. But anyway, thanks for watching.